Welcome to the Takadimi series, part 4. In this part of the series, we're going to talk about tied and dotted notes. So the first thing we're going to start with is tied notes. So with a tied note, you're going to see that little kind of line that connects those two notes together. When you see that line connecting two of the same notes together, it is called a tie. When the notes are different, it's called a slur. The concept of them is exactly the same, but how they work is just a little bit different. So a tie that connects the two notes together, you don't retongue or restart or put space between the two notes that are connected together. You just keep your air going from one note to the next. If I was to play the first 4 notes in line 1 there without the ties in there, it would sound like this. Now with the ties, that second ta is going to be silent. It's almost like a half note because you think 2 quarter notes put together equals a half note, which would be ta-ah. So instead it's going to be ta-ta-ta-ta with that second ta being silent. Now, no matter what type of note you see tied together, they don't have to be the same note value. You can see 2 half notes tied together, or a half note tied to a whole note, or a quarter note tied to a whole note, or a half note tied to a quarter note. You can see all sorts of combinations. All you do is you take the 2 notes that are tied together is you add them together. If you have 2 quarter notes that are 1 beat apiece tied together, they equal 2 beats. If you see 2 half notes tied together, it equals 4 beats. So for example, let's play through line 1. So you hear that I didn't restart my air between any of those notes. Now you can have 5, 6, 7, 8 notes or more tied together, so you're holding the note out for a long time. Not that uncommon to see that. As I mentioned, when we jump down to line 2, you're going to see 2 notes of different values tied together. And this is where you're going to see it a lot. You're going to see it happen over the bar line. This is where tas are used, or this is where slurs are used a lot. So ta, 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 dee, ta. That gets into the next part where you're going to see the the quarter note tied to the 8th note. Again, you might have to sit and think through it for a second. Ta, ta, dee, ta. Except the ta of the first 8th note is going to be, wow, that's a really badly drawn arrow. That's going to be silent. Ta, dee, ta, 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 dee, ta, 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 dee, ta, ta. Just like you hear me say it, just very silently. Let me go through, and I'm going to play this on drums. 1, 2, ready, go. Ta, 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 dee, ta, 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 dee, ta, dee, ta, 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 ta. With this one, again, slow it down a little bit until it makes sense. But basically, just as I said, the tie connects 2 notes together, and you just don't stop your air between them. You just keep holding the note out, and you take the sayings and you just combine them. So hopefully that makes sense. If not, please don't hesitate to leave a question down in the comments. Now, we're going to jump down to line 3. We have dotted notes. So often you will see a dot that follows a note, and you're going to see it right here with that dotted half note. So the dot will come right after the note. There are dotted quarter notes, there's dotted 8th notes, dotted 16th notes, all sorts of dotted notes. So a dot adds half of the note before it. So a half note is 2 beats long. Half of 2 is 1. 2 plus 1 equals 3. So a dotted half note gets 3 beats. So now let's look up at line 3. So you're going to see a half note tied to a quarter note, which is 3 beats, will turn into a dotted half note. So a half note tied to a quarter note sounds exactly the same as a dotted half note. So here we go, line 3. 1, 2, ready, go. And that is a dotted half note, which ends up being a ta, ah, ah. Now, if we look down to line 4, we've got dotted quarter notes. Dotted quarter notes equals 3/8 notes. And what you'll see here is I've got the 3/8 notes all tied together. So ta-dee-ta, with that single last eighth note by itself that you actually play. So how it's going to sound, if I snap it, ta-dee-ta-dee-ta, ta-dee-ta-dee-ta. I'm going to play through it on the drum pad. Ready, go. Ta-dee-ta-dee-ta, ta, ta-dee-ta-dee-ta, ta, ta-dee-ta-dee-ta, ta-dee-ta-dee-ta, ta-dee-ta-dee-ta-dee-ta. So what you're going to, the way you'll eventually feel it is, the goal eventually is that you're tapping the tempo with your foot. So like when you hear the metronome, your foot's tapping along with it. If you're already good at doing that, great. That's going to help you a ton. That's really what most musicians will rely on, is tapping their toes or their heel. So you're going to actually tap twice before you go off of it. Ta-dee-ta-dee-ta, ta-dee-ta-dee-ta, ta-dee-ta-dee-ta. So you'll feel that beat happens twice. Ta-dee-ta-dee-ta. Let me get that going. Ta-dee-ta. So you'll hear that there's a click of the beat in between there, and you'll just eventually get that feel down. But for at first, just like I said on everything else, slow it way, way down. So now I'm going to go ahead and play this on the trumpet. 2, ready, go. And that is the dotted quarter note. Now we're going to jump down to line 5. This is another very common rhythm that you're going to see, is a dotted eighth note followed by a 16th note. And then in line 6, we're going to go over a dotted 16th note followed by a dotted eighth note. So what we need to remember is an eighth note equals 2 16th notes, just like we talked about before. When you add the dot, that adds an extra 16th note because you add half of the note before it. So a dotted eighth note equals 3 16th notes. And if you look in the very beginning of line 5, you're going to see 3 16th notes tied together. Now, to think about it, it's kind of hard to think about when you break it down into Takadimi. You're going to get to the point where you just feel this. But for the first little bit, when you're working through this, you want to slow it down. Takadimi ta, takadimi ta. And you can sit and clap it. Takadimi ta, takadimi ta, takadimi ta. And then start to speed it up. Takadimi ta, takadimi ta. And you'll eventually get that feel for it. So here we go. Let's try it on drum pads. 1, 2, ready, go. Takadimi ta, takadimi ta, ta, mi ta, ta, mi ta, ta, mi takadimi ta, mi ta, ta, mi ta, di takadimi ta, ta. So that's how you play it on drums. Again, slow it way, way down. Now I'm going to do it on trumpet. 1, 2, ready, go. Especially the last lesson when we got into some of those bottom parts with the 16th notes and this page, you're probably going to have to pause this video and kind of go back through it a few times before you really get that feel for it. We did line 5. Now we're going to look at line 6. Line 6 is going to flip it. So line 5 was the dotted eighth note followed by the 16th note. Line 6 is the 16th note followed by the dotted eighth note. And it's all the same idea. Taka ta, taka ta, taka ta. Takadimi ta, takadimi ta, takadimi ta, taka ta, taka takadimi taka ta. taka, ta, di, takadimi, ta. So it's taka, taka, takadimi, ta, takadimi, ta. That's the root of everything, but you're just saying the taka, taka, takadimi, ta, takadimi, ta, takadimi, ta, takadimi, takadimi, ta, takadimi, ta, takadimi, ta. So here we go. Let's play through line 6. 1, 2, ready, go. Takadimi, ta, takadimi, ta, taka, ta, taka, ta, taka, takadimi, taka, ta, taka, ta, di, takadimi, ta. And now let's do it on trumpet. 1, 2, ready, go. Now what we're going to do in line 7 is we're going to kind of put it all together. A lot of the different things we've done on the last part 3 and this part 4. So this one, I'm just going to do it on drums. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to speak through it. Then I'm going to play it without saying it. And I want you to try to follow along as you hear it played and say it. 1, 2, ready, go. Ta, di, mi, ta, di, mi, ta, di, ta, mi, taka, ta, di, ta. Now I'm going to play it on drums. 1, 2, ready, go. Now let's do it on trumpet. I think I said I wasn't going to, but why not? 1, 2, ready, go. So that is Takadimi Part 4 and takes us through tied and dotted notes. Again, if you have any questions on anything specific in this video, please don't hesitate to leave a comment below and I will do my best to answer it. If it's kind of hard to answer through a message, I will post a follow-up video and tag it in this video in my other playlist. Because remember, I am going to link to another playlist that has all the videos I've done up until now. It's just kind of follow-up videos that might just include bits and pieces of everything we've gone over in these videos. Once you master this page, I will see you over on Takadimi Part 5.